Welcome to Digital Dialogues Podcast. Today on the Digital Dialogues Podcast, we're thrilled to welcome Tracy Jefferson, a true veteran in the facilities management and corporate real estate sectors. With over 40 years of experience, Tracy has made significant strides in implementing integrated workplace management systems such as IBM Tririga and Invisi, and has managed global teams across marketing, sales, service delivery, and more. Tracy's journey has spanned multiple continents, including implementing solutions in regions as diverse as South Asia and the Middle East. He's also an IBM champion and an active advocate for workplace equality and sustainability. Let's dive into the insights and experiences of a remarkable leader in the field. Welcome, Tracy. How are you today?
I'm doing well. It's good to see you, Stephen. Thanks for the invitation to join.
You as well, my friend. You as well. Let's get right into it. Tracy, you have an extensive background in IWMS and sustainability solutions. Can you share what first drew you into this field and how you've seen it evolve over the years?
I started in software development back in 1981, showing my age there, and did a lot of development, and then I moved more to the business side around a lot of architects and engineers getting into that facility side of the services they rendered. And in 2005, a former colleague of mine called and said, there was this little company out in Las Vegas called Tririga that had started this thing called IWMS, Integrated Workplace Management, and he thought I might be a good fit for the company. And in June, it'll be 20 years that I've worked with IBM Tririga because of that phone call that day. So it was almost stumbled into it through a relationship, and so That was interesting. And it's come a long ways. You know, IWMS has big ambitions over 20 years ago. Tririga really started even before then. And it has come a long way, and now we're seeing more and more changes as things like AI are coming into play.
Nice. You've implemented IWMS solutions worldwide, including in South Asia and the Middle East. What unique challenges did you face working in these regions, and how did you adapt solutions to fit the specific needs of each location?
I think the biggest challenge is educating yourself, because you're dealing with different cultures, you're dealing with different legal systems, you're dealing with different attitudes about how you maintain facilities, how you build facilities. So that has been the biggest challenge, is just really learning and making sure to understand cultures. Because I lived in Saudi Arabia a couple of years and doing an implementation and working with IBM as well. There, it's learning to respect the culture and know about it so you don't get surprised. I did a lot of things in Saudi, for instance. I built my schedules around prayer times so that the people that were attending the meeting, I knew they had an obligation. And that gained me a lot of respect, by the way, in the culture for making the effort to do that. But even learning how you run meetings when you go to different countries, whether it's Europe or Asia, whatever, or Middle East is not one place, it's many cultures. And how you run a meeting and how you talk to people and the way you show respect to senior executives and all is very different. So that's been the biggest challenge, was just really making sure you are preparing yourself for the different environments. But then outside of that too, when you're dealing with international companies, of course, you have legal and tax systems and you have international reporting requirements. All of this has to be taken into account. So it gets very complicated fast.
Well said. How are the facilities management and workplace management solutions critical to an organization's success, and how do they drive efficiency in today's dynamic business environments?
You know, the second most expensive thing in a company is going to be its office space. And how you manage your facilities is so critical, because not only is it about efficiency, now we have a big factor of sustainability, trying to treat the planet right. And we're also looking at workplace experience. You need to retain people. And a lot of your people that are coming up now, your younger generation in particular, is looking at the culture and the work environment. It's no longer about sitting in a little cubicle with really bright lights everywhere. We need to manage our facilities efficiently. Companies are also under lots of pressure to be more financially efficient. So you really need to look at your organization and how we're going to drive our space, how we're going to use our space, how we're going to maintain it. There was a culture for a long time, but let's build a building. When it falls apart, we'll tear it down and build a new one. That's not the way to do things these days. We want to have a more proactive approach to managing our facilities. We need to see things coming. Facilities are far more complicated than it used to be these days. We really need to be very proactive and aware in ways that we weren't 10 years ago even.
Gotcha. No, that makes perfect sense, Tracy. And you mentioned being a software developer back in 1981. Hate to go back to your age again.
Thanks, buddy.
Anytime. But with that, you obviously had a flair for technology. With advancements in AI, what new possibilities do you see for facilities and workplace management? How do you think AI will influence this realm in the next few years?
Oh, I think it's going to be huge, and in a positive way. A lot of people are, AI is going to take jobs, AI is going to do this and that. I think AI actually is a huge benefit if you leverage it right. Leveraging it right, number one, means education opportunities for people that are going to have to use AI and be impacted by AI. But in terms of facilities themselves, you have smart facilities now, smart buildings. Companies like Schneider Electric have made buildings so intelligent. But with that intelligence comes so much data, millions and millions of data points coming in at any given time around a facility. More than any human can look at and see trends, can see things happening. AI is going to change all of that because AI can look at all this data and analyze it and see things that the human's not going to do and help us make better decisions. It's not going to replace us. It's going to tell us what we need to do or make recommendations to us so that we can be more proactive with our buildings. And another thing that's going to happen is your field technicians are going to be out and they're going to have AI at their fingertips. I have my iPhone and an AirPod in my ear half the time and talking to my iPhone, or it's telling me things, or if I'm driving, it's already interacting with me. That's going to happen in facilities too. Our engineers are going to be inside. They're going to maybe fix a problem and they're not sure it's fixed, but the AI sees the data stream changes and may come back and say, hey, if you change something else more, then maybe it'll be even more efficient or a better solution, or you didn't actually fix this problem. We're still seeing data run that's not right. So you're going to have a lot more real-time information and recommendations. It's just going to be radical how it changes.
Nice. So it isn't about Skynet and doom and gloom. That's what you're telling me. We don't have to worry
I don't know
about.
if I would go that far. I think there's a risk to AI because AI can be subverted. Right?
Yes.
But when I think of facilities maintenance, I think it would be a great time to be a facilities technician 5 years, 10 years from now, because you're going to have interactive tools right at your disposal all the time. And you're not going to think you fixed something and come back 2 days later and be tweaking it again. You're going to have information to do it right the first time and move on. I think it's a great time. But yes, AI does have inherent risk.
Yeah. The next question I have is around sustainability. And sustainability is becoming central to IWMS now. How have you approached integrating sustainability metrics, and why do you believe it's essential for companies to prioritize this?
I think I would address maybe the last question first, which it's essential for, it's obvious to say because of the planet. We have done so much damage to our planet overall as humans,
Yes,
and we need to stop that. We also need to take action to stop talking about things like the circular economy and start making it happen. Sustainability is about pushing toward taking less from the planet than we obviously are, we have to, and giving back as much as we can. Sustainability, though, is also about customers and it's about employees. I know from meetings I've been in where people are saying, yes, my college students, they only buy from companies that are flagged as being sustainable companies. So it's about growing your company and showing corporate responsibility. There's a lot of different aspects to sustainability. One of the challenges, of course, is the disclosure reporting on sustainability. Where's this data coming from? What do those standards really look like? How do you really report on it? How can you get accurate data? It ties back to AI, of course, because I'm going to have data coming in from all kinds of different systems. If I'm an international company with 10,000 locations, I have 10,000 locations trying to feed data stream into the sustainability picture to make good decisions on. So we really need to have the right systems in place to collect the data. But the data has to be quality. I joke sometimes, I'm actually not really even joking. Data is one of those 4-letter words you just hate to hear sometimes because it's easy to brag about, well, we've got 1 million terabytes of data or whatever. Who cares? Is it any good? Is it audible? Does it really tell you anything? Are you using that data in such a way that the C-suite can make good decisions? Because data is one thing, but is it really usable? And how do you get the most out of it? And these are really important around sustainability. And the expanded ESG conversation too gets into, are you going to be looking for funding? What are your stockholders looking for? They want to see that you're a sustainable company. Are you socially involved? Are your people involved in local things like Habitat for Humanity is a great example where some companies allow people to take a day to go work with Habitat for Humanity. These are important social considerations. And then from the governance side, of course, I'm an investor or I'm on the board of directors. I want to see that our company is going to be sustainable. And sustainable, again, isn't just about energy or raw materials or usage. It's about being sustainable on the revenue side, sustainable on the hiring side, sustainable as being part of our communities. So I think all of these are really important, and it's just a matter of getting all the data together and not just once. I always tell companies talking about sustainability, they'll say, we've got all this data and we know where to get it, but can you keep it coming? And is it accurate? Who are your data stewards? Who owns that data to make sure it keeps coming? These are all challenges around the sustainability requirements. And then, of course, each country has its own, and then there's some of the international, like you have the global reporting standards. So how do you report, and internally, how do you have to report? It's a very complicated picture, but we have to pursue sustainability, and we have to make the world a better place going forward. If you want I have grandkids, and I want my grandkids to have a world that is a living, breathing planet that they know can carry on to their children.
Very well said. And Tracy, you've been in this business, as you said, 20 plus years. You've been working with Tririga now. What has been one of the most complex projects you've worked on, and how did you navigate the difficulties to achieve success?
Wow, those are challenging. I could come up with quite a few. I think a couple of examples I would use there for project challenges would be a company that has like over 10,000 locations. And they are going to use an IWMS system, number one, to track all those locations. They're going to look at those for decisions to make on the markets and the data they need to decide what locations do we close, what locations do we want to remove or replace somewhere else, where do we want to grow because demographics are shifting. So IWMS is a challenge there. But one of the bigger challenges I ever had was, again, with a company that had over 10,000 locations. But they had several different ways of approaching capital projects. They had new locations, they had renovations, and then they had something that was around innovation. So these are three separate teams, three different kinds of approaches to projects, three different sets of money, three different processes, all that had to come into, in this case, it was Tririga Capital Projects. So how do you take all of that and all these different ways of doing things and bring it together into a cohesive solution? That was a very complex project. And then the other example I would use would be around just global leasing. Changing standards. Do you report on your local home country? Then you have countries around the world that follow international standards with maybe their own little tweaks on reporting. And that gets very complicated in terms of keeping up with it all. It's not just the implementation, it's just that these are evolving standards not only globally but also nationally. So you've got to keep up with all these moving pieces and parts all the time, ongoing. So you have a cost of ownership of an IWMS solution that can be very significant because of that. But those are two scenarios of many.
Yeah, no, that's great. And thank you for that, Tracy. Now, piggybacking off that same question, you've led diverse global teams across multiple functions. What strategies do you use to foster collaboration and unity among team members from different cultures and backgrounds?
That's always interesting. And first and foremost for me is making sure everyone understands culture-wise, language-wise, whatever, we're one team. Okay, so we have to be a team. And a couple of things there. One is education, making sure people understand the different cultures a little bit. And one of the ways I've done that is like Friday afternoons, or sometimes we would do it in the morning because of time zones, we would have a 1 hour, just a team meeting. Anybody that was free could make the time, could join. And we would have different people from different cultures come in, different countries, and passing around going, tell us something about your country the other people may not know. So that people started learning about those other countries and other cultures. One of my favorite things that ever happened, and this was back right before COVID started, and I was doing this with a company. We had a gentleman who collects guitars in South Africa, and he was actually broke out a guitar and said, "This is my hobby," and starts playing his guitar. And a lady in Canada joined in. She knew the song. So we literally had online karaoke around the world. It was awesome.
Wow.
That's the kind of thing that we want to do. We want to make the different people get to know each other and respect each other's cultures, because we're all different, and that's okay. And frankly, that's incredibly healthy to have all those different things. I've learned so much on phone calls with global teams over the years about their cultures and different things and different perceptions, even different uses of the words. Because something I learned when in Saudi Arabia is I did a presentation at a bank in Kuwait one day with IBM. And the feedback came back that we thought the presentation was interesting, but you made some points that nobody understood. And I realized they didn't understand it because I'm from Southwest Virginia, okay? And I was using some regional phrases to explain things that someone learned English as a second language would never have possibly known or understood.
Yeah.
So a big learning experience for me then was to come out and be careful to stay, if you will, mainstream English. Don't go off and use regional terms that just confuse people. But even sometimes learning those is a lot of fun. Learning what some of the phrases mean and maybe how words are used differently, and even in English. Our friends in the UK, they speak a strange dialect. And then you get the Aussies there. And my friends in South Africa that speak English, they all have different ways of using phrases and words. And that's something that I like to do to encourage that cultural interaction, though, is help each other learn those things. So it can be a lot of, it needs to be fun. And that's one of the things I always try to do from team dynamics.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. I get a kick out of the many colloquialisms that we have in this country. And then when you share them with people of other cultures to get their reaction is always priceless to me.
I'll give you one quick one, even
Yeah.
within the country, that was really one of the most hysterical conversations I've ever had, was with in-laws in Minnesota. And I was sitting at a table, a picnic table, with kind of distant in-laws, but this lady was probably in her 70s, and was chatting with her, and she looked at me. She has a strong northern Minnesota accent. Okay? My accent is mid-Atlantic, the Virginia comes out. She looked at me and she goes, "You're a foreigner, aren't you?" Because I was in Minnesota, and I had to explain to her I'm just from Central Virginia, but she considered me a foreigner because I didn't speak like she did in Minnesota. And it's
Right.
one of my favorite moments ever with family. We all still laugh about it. "You're a foreigner, aren't you?"
That is hilarious. That is really funny. I used to get the same sort of thing when I was a kid. I was born and raised in Philadelphia, but when I was a kid, in the summer times, my parents would sometimes send me back to their home, which was South Carolina, a small town called Abbeville. And each summer I would go down there and, like a sponge, I would soak up all of this southern stuff, and I'd come back with a southern drawl. And so my Philadelphia family and friends would give me a hard time about that all the time. It was really
I'd go
funny.
visit my brother in a rural area of Southwest Virginia for a few days and come back, and there's a noticeable return to the roots there.
Yes,
Doesn't take long.
yes. So it sounds like you've had some very interesting experiences throughout your travels, your journey in this particular space. And having traveled so extensively, are there any specific locations or experiences that stand out to you as particularly memorable? How have these experiences shaped your outlook on work and life?
I could sit and talk for hours, but I'll try to keep it to about a dozen short points. There's so many. I've been to 34 countries. And the first thing I would say is traveling for business in particular changed everything about how I perceive the world. And that's just honest, because you are exposed to cultures and different ways of thinking and so much history and all. I said I got $1 million education working for IBM because I went to all these different countries and met so many different people and legal systems, and it was an incredible learning experience that has shaped my life ever since, the last decade or so in particular. Some of the highlights, though, I would say of countries is my youngest son and his family live in Thailand, and I love the land of smiles. I love Thailand. The scuba diving experiences I've had off of Koh Lipe, Koh Samui, some of the islands is phenomenal. And the food, when you get away from Bangkok. Bangkok's a great city of the world, but it's a big city. When you get away from there and you get to the open air markets and you get out in the countryside is amazing. Another one I would say is a highlight is southern Cambodia is stunning. There's a place called Bokor National Park, which is this massive park area in the mountains of southern Cambodia. And we were up there on mopeds in the mountain, and a Monsoon storm blew in. It was so crazy strong, it literally turned day into night. You couldn't see more than 1 or 2 meters in front of you. We rode off of this winding little mountain road in this incredible monsoon storm on mopeds. Maybe the craziest thing I've ever done. It was awesome. Love to do it again. Another thing, I think a lot of people that know me have heard the story about me riding around in Karachi, Pakistan on top of buses with the locals. I like to experience culture, and I wish I'd have had a GoPro the first time I pulled myself up on top of a bus to see all the mouths come open. That obvious Westerner was out riding with them, and I had so much fun. Everybody wanted to have their picture taken. They were all afraid I was going to fall off. I had people holding me by the legs and stuff. My hardest part was getting off of these buses. I had so much fun. I would add, while we're in the Middle East now, or moving toward the Middle East, I think maybe the greatest city on the planet is Mecca, because you have hundreds of thousands of people at any given time, all together in harmony in one location. It's an amazing thing. Another country I would say is a highlight is Oman. People probably don't even know where Oman is unless you've been over that way in the Middle East. Beautiful country, beautiful people. Everybody needs to go to Dubai one time. I've probably been there 50, but Dubai is an amazing place to see. Another country of history and really great people is Lebanon. And one night in Beirut, we were in a place called Alhambra, which is like the party district. I've never seen such crazy partying out in the open air in my life. It's nuts. A couple other areas. In February, the humpback whale migration peaks off of Puerto Vallarta in the bay there. And an amazing experience is to see the whales, but to get in the water with them and hear them talking across this bay. It's unbelievable to hear them and be with them. Diving the Blue Hole of Belize. It's actually a collapsed cave, and it goes down over 400 feet. Obviously, you can't dive down there, but my youngest son and I scuba dived there with a dive master down to 120 feet. And we were diving, and 5 sharks came and swam with us. And when we got back to the surface, we actually got out of our scuba gear, grabbed a mask and snorkel, and dove back in the water and swam with the sharks. Which, speaking of, Jupiter, Florida has huge shark populations, and I have unbelievable photos and underwater camera footage of schools of sharks, and some of them, they'll come up and bump you, let you know you're there. So I have these great videos of interactions with sharks. I have one where this lemon shark was literally about 2 feet from my face, and it looks like a caricature because she's almost smiling at me like, I could have gotten you. Last couple, Italy. I've been a big fan of Italy and Roman history since elementary school. I even tortured myself for a couple of years of Latin in high school. Rome to me is almost a religious experience. Walking through that city, I think you could spend a life there and never see it all. It's just amazing. And with history too. Back in September, was on a small catamaran sailing around the Greek Isles with some friends. That was amazing. Norway, the country is stunning, but the place is so open. Like in Oslo, I actually have pictures sitting on the stairs leading up to the Royal Palace watching the sunrise. It's just such an open, relaxed place. It's amazing. Last two, we'll go Africa and I'll leave you alone. In Giza, Egypt, the first time I went there, the IBM office has a big boardroom. And I opened the blinds of the boardroom for a meeting, and there was the Great Pyramids.
Oh, wow.
The picture in my mind will never go away. I was stunned. I had to close the blinds because I never could have led the meeting with the Great Pyramids in front of my face. I literally had to close them back up. And then the last one I'll leave is South Africa is a favorite place in the world. Amazing people. In the western Cape Town, and then the wine country area and University of Stellenbosch is beautiful. And Table Mountain, which is so famous as a landmark, is so big it has its own weather system. And I was on top of it one day in the sun, and about 20 minutes later, I couldn't see to walk. The fog and clouds came in so fast, you couldn't even see. You basically had to just hang out in where you were. In about an hour, it blew away. I mean, these are just a few. I've been to so many places and so many amazing experiences. And I would add to that, though, these experiences impact you personally, but they also impact your work because you're interacting with the culture and going to different buildings. A lot of my travel has been for work, so I'm in different buildings, different facilities, seeing the technology, in some cases lack thereof, hearing the challenges. Places like in South Africa, a lot of rolling blackouts. dealing with challenges there. You have a nice building, but you're going to be without power 2 hours a day.
Wow.
Or you have to have generators that really work because you're going to lose power and better have your generators tested. These are all things you have to take in mind with facilities. And the thing that's coming with the future of IMS was with AI and with all these changes in technology happening around facilities and smart buildings. Even countries that are considered like third world are having access to these things now. And it's going to make such a difference in their ability to move forward.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, Tracy. Now, as a seasoned professional, what advice would you give to those aspiring to have a career in IWMS or corporate real estate technology?
I think there's two things. First off, when you get into facility management in particular, the world is changing. You need to not just know how to go in and trace down a leak somewhere or how to keep a building somewhat efficient. You've got to understand data. And I don't care if you're going to be an IWMS or just real estate technology or if you're managing a building, you better understand data points, how data moves. You've got to understand sustainability reporting. You've got to have a lot of different areas. You're seeing college programs, was it McMaster's? I think that has a college program that does real well. Up in Michigan, there's a school, I forgot the different names. But you're seeing a lot of the younger people come up now that are really focused almost more on technology than the mechanics of a building because you have to be. So if you're wanting to be a leader in this industry, you better understand and keep up with technology a lot, but understand data, understand smart buildings because the world is moving so much into technology right now. You really have to understand it. And there's that four-letter D word, data. I keep saying it because it's so important. And to be able to make good decisions and understand even what AI or something's going to tell you, you need to really be on the technology side.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I see in my day-to-day in talking with people who are directors of facilities or VPs, even down to facility managers, you can tell that is starting to be a trend. A lot of these men and women who are just people who are out there working work orders or PMs out there doing something physical, now they're starting to get much more educated about data analytics and AI and how these things are going to help them do their jobs and give them great success. So, no, you're absolutely right.
They're walking around with smart tablets and iPhones, right?
Yes.
They're now going around and doing those things. And companies like ours, e-business strategies, Quantum Strides, we both also have that challenge, which is to have the right people well educated who keep up with the terminology and the change in the landscape for technology for us to be successful as well and for us to help our facilities managers and our clients be successful. We've got to keep up with all this technology, and that's a challenge for us.
Yes, definitely. Definitely is a challenge for us. Tracy Jefferson, I tell you, man, it's been a pleasure as always. I get to see you, even though we're not sitting next to each other at a table at some conference somewhere. But it is always good to see you, my friend. Thank you so much for joining me on Digital Dialogues today. And we look forward to talking again real soon.
I hope not just to talk to you, Stephen. We'll see you hopefully in person soon again as well.
Yeah, that would be
after
good.
the first of the year, though. It's
Yeah.
the conference season, but
Probably not. We still got Q4 to go, so we'll try and close this out real strong. But it will be good to see you out on the road again soon, Tracy.